The first shock came to Ethan like a punch of cold wind to the chest, unexpected, sharp, and strong enough to change the course of his life. He always believed that some moments slip into our lives quietly, without warning, like the creaking of a door or the flickering of a light. But this moment arrived like thunder. It began the day he opened a folder on his boss's damaged computer and saw a single photo, one he was never meant to see, one that revealed a side of her that shattered every assumption he had ever made about her. And in that moment, with his breath tightening and his heartbeat stumbling, he didn't know he was standing at the edge of the most transformative chapter of his life. Sparkles if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected stories that change lives. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to the world. Sparkles. Ethan wasn't the kind of man anyone noticed at first glance. He worked quietly, moved quietly, lived quietly. But beneath his calm face lay a heart bruised from years of disappointments. Life hadn't been generous with him, no stable family, no emotional anchor, and nothing but the belief that work was the only place he could prove he mattered. He worked as a junior IT assistant in a company that didn't know his name until something broke. On most days, he was invisible. And yet he clung to the belief that invisibility was safer. After all, when people didn't see you, they couldn't hurt you. His boss, Maya Hartman, was known throughout the office as a woman carved from steel. Everyone respected her, feared her, or tried to impress her. No one dared cross her path. She was elegance mixed with discipline, wrapped tightly in a personality that never cracked, never softened, never revealed anything beneath the surface. She was everything Ethan wasn't: powerful, confident, unshakable. At least that's what everyone believed. But the universe has a strange way of turning mirrors toward the truth when we least expect it. The day her laptop crashed, Ethan was called, not because she knew his name, but because he happened to be the only one in the department still working late. He walked into her office expecting the usual tension, her sharp instructions, her impatient glances, the unspoken belief that everyone around her moved too slowly. But instead, she was silent. Her shoulders were tense, her hands slightly shaking, and for the first time, Ethan saw something he didn't expect from her: worry. Not the kind linked to anger, but the kind rooted in fear. He took her laptop to the repair room and began working. It was supposed to be a simple fix: recover a corrupted system file, scan for malware, reboot. Nothing unusual. But then one folder opened on its own. A glitch, he thought. Nothing more. But the moment the image popped up on the screen, he felt his breath stop. The photo showed Maya in a hospital room, her head slightly bowed, her eyes swollen from crying. She wasn't dressed like the corporate warrior the world knew. She looked fragile, exhausted, and heartbreakingly human. A child's small hand was wrapped around her fingers, weak and frail, as if holding onto her for dear life. Machines surrounded the bed. The lights were dim. And Maya's expression held a storm of grief the world never got to see. Ethan froze. He hadn't meant to see it. He knew he shouldn't look. But his eyes remained glued to the image because something in it reached into the hollow places inside him, places he didn't know were still capable of feeling so deeply. Suddenly, the woman who had seemed invincible appeared human in a way that tore down every wall she had built around her identity. Ethan closed the folder instantly, terrified she might walk in and misunderstand. But the image lingered in his mind, soft, painful, unforgettable. He fixed the computer, returned it to her desk, and left before she could ask questions. But that night, he couldn't sleep. Something inside him had shifted. The steel woman had cracks. And behind the cracks was someone desperately fighting a battle no one knew about. In the days that followed, Ethan noticed things he had never noticed before. The way her eyes dimmed when she thought no one was looking. The way she pressed her fingers against her temple as if trying to push back tears. The way she avoided leaving the office early, as though home wasn't a refuge but a battlefield. And then one evening, long after the building had emptied, she approached him while he was packing his things. Her voice was gentle, almost fragile. She said she wanted to thank him for fixing her computer. Ethan nodded, avoiding eye contact, praying she didn't ask if he saw anything. But she wasn't there to talk about the laptop. She asked a question so soft, so unexpectedly vulnerable, it felt like time itself paused. She asked him if he thought she was pretty. The world seemed to narrow into a single moment, one heartbeat, one breath, one question that didn't make sense coming from someone like her. It wasn't vanity in her voice. It was desperation. It was loneliness. It was the sound of a person who had forgotten how to feel worthy of being seen. That question became the turning point. Ethan realized then that Maya had been alone for too long. Her grief was private. Her pain was silent. Her strength was a mask she wore because the world punished softness that he didn't answer her question with words. Instead, he spoke from a place inside him he had never shared with anyone. He told her she wasn't defined by beauty or perfection or power. She was human. And that made her extraordinary. Over the months that followed, Maya slowly let him into her world. Not because she trusted easily, but because she needed someone who saw her without the armor. Someone who didn't want anything from her. Someone who wasn't intimidated by her silence. Ethan learned about her child, the little boy named Aiden who had been battling a rare illness for 2 years. She had worked tirelessly, not for ambition, but to afford his treatments, to keep him alive, to give him a chance the world kept trying to take away. Her strength was not coldness, it was sacrifice. Her discipline was not arrogance, it was survival. And every day, she carried her pain alone because she believed she had no right to burden anyone with it. But Ethan stayed. Not out of pity, but because something inside him recognized her loneliness. He had spent his whole life invisible, and she had spent her whole life hiding. Together, invisibility and hiding found a place to breathe. Little by little, their worlds intertwined. Ethan accompanied her to hospital visits, becoming Aiden's favorite person. He repaired her laptop again and again, not because it needed fixing but because it gave them excuses to talk. And Maya, who once moved like a storm, learned to slow down, to sit quietly, to feel again, but stories shaped by pain always walk near the edge of more pain. One winter night, Aiden's condition worsened. Ethan held Maya as she broke down for the first time in years. No steel. No armor. Just a mother who feared losing the only part of her heart still beating. The hospital room was filled with a silence so heavy it felt like the walls were grieving. Machines beeped softly. The child slept, his breaths thin and fragile. Ethan stayed beside them, promising silently that he would not leave. No matter how dark the night became, hope returned slowly. Aiden responded to a new treatment. Maya found moments where she could smile again, real smiles, tender smiles, the kind that made Ethan feel like sunlight had entered a room that had been dark for too long. In time, the three of them formed something unspoken but powerful, a family built not by blood, but by shared battles and quiet healing. Maya learned to trust. Ethan learned to be seen. And Aiden learned to laugh again. And one day, long after the grief had loosened its grip, Maya looked at Ethan with the same softness she had once reserved only for her son. In that moment, Ethan realized what he had never dared to imagine: he had become part of a life he once believed he didn't deserve. He had fixed a computer. But the universe had used that moment to fix 3 hearts. As this story draws closer to its end, the message becomes clear. Sometimes the people who seem the strongest are the ones carrying the heaviest battles, and sometimes the ones who feel invisible are the ones destined to bring light into someone's darkest hour.